Tuesday, June 18th, 2024, the Tuesday after one of the most amazing weekends ever. Thank you guys for being here today. I'll let the audience build a little bit, but yeah, this is going to be a great show, and I hope you enjoy it. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about the weekend and what transpired. Also, I want to deal with a lot of other things that are kind of out there in the media right now, and encourage you to know that as the theme of this year goes, it's more in 2024, more of everything. There is going to be more of good, and there's going to be more bad, more evil. It's just part of the program. Sorry about that. I had something. I'm wearing flip flops for the first time in the studio, and I had something between my toe. I think it was one of the cables, and I thought it might be a spider, and it wasn't. But hey, you can always catch us Tuesdays, Thursdays, live from 4 to 5 on Facebook, Twitter, X, Rumble, and YouTube. We're on all four of those formats, platforms. I appreciate you liking and sharing, subscribing. As I've said, there are a lot of I should say there are not a lot of sources for content, conservative content in the central Illinois area and Illinois at all. Our state has been hijacked by the Democrats, and that's been the case for a very, 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 very long time, unfortunately. But we're making a comeback. Obviously, that's part of taking it back is physically, mentally, intellectually taking it back. When I say physically, I'm not talking about being aggressive or political violence. I'm talking about physically taking it back by getting involved. We can all talk about wanting a different Illinois, a different United States of America. However, unless we truly get involved, activate ourselves, and become part of the restoration, become part of the renewal, the revival of this country, then things are going to obviously be where they're at. I truly believe that that's not going to be the case because we are making inroads like never before. I was listening to Scott Pressler earlier on Dan Bongino's show and the work that he's doing at getting people registered to vote and truly making a difference of closing the gaps of registered Republicans and registered Democrats in Pennsylvania. That seems to be his target area right now is Pennsylvania. However, we're making great inroads in Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin. In fact, the president right now is in Wisconsin, and I'm going to see if I can get that pulled back up. I went ahead and shared that with my wife earlier, who, by the way, happens to be in studio for the first time ever joining me. She does not want me to share her picture behind their screen, but she can see the comments section. So if you want to say hi to Tanya, she is in studio. Like I said, unofficially, we are calling this the first day of retirement from teaching for Tanya, but obviously school's been out for a while, but okay, I've got it loaded up there. Trump is still, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. I put her on screen. See, there she is. You better wave. I got to add this to stage. How do I get rid of you, though? Removed from stage. There. That's how I did it. So here's Trump currently in Wisconsin, racing Wisconsin. This is live, actually. And so
perhaps they become Hollywood stars.
There you go.
They'll say, who's that person with great star appeal behind Trump? So let's see. Got a few of them. You never know. Hey, you never know. What is a star, after all? What is a star? I will also take immediate action to save our economy. Our economy is doing terribly. Inflation has killed our economy. It's a nation buster. On the last day in office, inflation.
I will say that earlier, he did happen to cover a little bit about Joe Biden's amnesty that he came out earlier today, actually earlier this afternoon, and proclaimed amnesty for a whole plethora of people who are not in the country yet legally. And this is, we're going to get more, like, as I said, more in 2024. It's more of everything. More of everything on the left side of the aisle is going to come full force in every way you can possibly imagine. It's going to be relentless. They're not going to take their foot off the accelerator. And I encourage you not to take your foot off the accelerator. It's, we won't realize a victory November 6th if we dare to pump the brakes, if we dare proclaim that there's going to be a red wave. There is no red wave. They are, and Trump was just covering it. There's only really one reason why it is that they want all these people in the country. It's because they're going to register them to vote. And we know this to be the case. They have set the stage for that to happen. They knew the last time around in 2020 that they needed plan B for 2024, because the plan that they implemented in 2020 was not going to work in 2024. So, it's more in 2024, but this is really far from asking God to be present, which is the title of the show, and I definitely want to hit upon that today, because it's what's more important than anything in my life right now is what just transpired over the weekend. My daughter's wedding. And in fact, I'm going to put that up here real quick. Here's a picture of Hannah and I as we were at the rehearsal dinner, and very cool picture. Almost as cool as this one. They're all cool, but this is the one I think I'm going to leave up for a while. There we are in the father-daughter dance. But as the show is titled, and I know that it seems a little slow and drawn out today, but I am exhausted. My wife proclaims that she is retired, and I just proclaim that I am tired. And many of you probably understand that going through a wedding, that, don't get rid of her. Oh, there you are. Becky Swan, thanks for jumping on today. Appreciate you. Don't get rid of her. I get you. Or are you talking about Hannah? Or are you talking about Tanya? Oh, you're talking about Tanya. See, I'm not fully, I'm out of my element today because Tanya is directly over the camera, to the left of the camera. So I'm a little nervous. I never have anybody in studio, and Ryan's not going to be able to join us today. He said that he'll be back on Thursday. He had a little medical procedure, so he's fine. Don't worry. He will be back. He assures me on Thursday, and it's always much easier when I have Ryan in studio because he helps with the process, the flow of the show and everything like that. So absolutely beautiful picture of Hannah and her daddy-daughter dance. Yes. Thank you. So I I want to talk a little bit about asking God to be present. And because I titled the show that. In coming out of this wedding, the second wedding for me, because I have twin daughters, and many of you know that. This one, though, really hit me hard for a reason. Not that my first wedding with Cassidy didn't hit me hard, but I knew that there was going to be another wedding. And now there's going to be no more father-daughter dances. And something that's really cool about that evening on Saturday is that the wedding was totally about the presence of God and God being present. As the pastor, Timothy James Farrell from the Tabernacle, I always encourage you guys, if you're not doing anything and you're here in the Central Illinois area, specifically the Bloomington Normal area, McLean County, on 10 o'clock Sunday, if you don't have a place that you call your church home, by all means, you're more than welcome at the Tab on West Hovey, 1805 or 1835. I think it's 1835. I'll get the address and put it in there. Just look for the cross. It's before you get to White Oak Road, also known as Route 150. Come and join us Sunday. All are welcome. It's a great place to be. But Pastor Timothy James Farrell was the officiant of the ceremony, and he did an amazing job of calling on all of us to invite to be part of what God had prepared for that day, which was this wedding ceremony. And we can go back through scripture, and scripture tells us, everything we need to know about weddings and how we're to prepare and how we're to do things when it comes to those sacraments and covenants that God has put before us. 1845 West Hovey. I'm sorry, 1845 West Hovey. I will put that in the comment section. Actually, my beautiful wife could do that too. 1845. Well, she says she's already doing it, so I'm going to erase it. But Pastor Timothy James Farrell did an amazing job, and I think this is kind of where we're at. And I'm going to weave these things into the topic of today, asking God to be present. Because ultimately, no matter what is going on in the fodder of this world, whether it's economics, whether it's education, whether it's anything that we have challenging us, it's all about the presence of God. No matter what is going on in your life, it's just not saved for sacraments or for high ceremonies. God can be called upon to be present no matter where you are, what you're doing, what is happening. And I know that in order for this country truly to turn away from all of the infighting, the bickering, the dissension, the division, it's going to take man, specifically man within the church, man and woman, to turn back towards God in a manner that's never been seen before in the history, the modern history, I should say, because it's something that we've seemed to lose sight of. Man has not been dependent and reliant and on God for sustenance, for the country that we have been given, and the Constitution that we've been given, which is very clear that all the rights that we have come from our Creator, God. And we've lost the essence of that in inviting God into every aspect of our life. As I said, Pastor Timothy James Farrell at Hannah's ceremony asked God to be present. And I'm telling you, you could really feel the presence of God. I mean, it was something that I have felt many times, but specifically Saturday night, from the calmness of the weather, the subtle breezes, the food was amazing. The people there that prepared the food and the drink, they were amazing. There were just so many aspects, things that took place that were just, beyond this world. They weren't of this world. They were of God. And you could feel that from the family gathering, friends and family, and the intimacy and the closeness and how people were welcoming and receiving one another. It was over the top. Now, there were some special surprises, and it was pretty cool. We had, because the venue where we had the wedding had a runway on it. It's a grass runway. It's what would be called a country runway. We had a gentleman who often flies into that specific runway, fly by, and he did a flyover and then landed his plane. He, of course, did some cool things with his lights, and we're blinking them and letting out a little exhaust off of his engine to create some a smoke stream. And it was just purely um remarkable. I was going to say magical, and I guess we can use that terminology, but it was of God. It truly was a all the incidents that took place seemed to be lined up in a manner, and I was just in awe as I stood there as the father of the bride. Um, it was cool. It was cool. There it is, right there. Father of the bride dancing with his daughter. Uh, there's no other way to describe it. I mean, it's just I know many of you probably have experiencing something similar, but um, it is. It is those times when we take the opportunity to realize how awesome of a God we serve, and and I know that that's something we should do every day. And it's easy to get caught up in the craziness of everything going on around us, all of the swirling, especially when you're dealing with social media. And I encourage you to reduce the amount of time you spend on social media and spend more time truly just in the classroom of silence, if not with other people, and not necessarily online, but physically. I think there's something to be said that we've lost the essence of being community through being with people. Now, these virtual communities are cool and they have their place. Unfortunately, they've become the standard of how we get together rather than the exception. They are the rule, not the exception. And we should spend more time, as we did on Saturday, coming together as family and friends and truly celebrating and enjoying one another and having conversation. You know, it's sad because you see that in today's world. Especially my wife and I love to walk up and down Constitution Trail. Love the name of it, Constitution Trail, obviously, right here, Constitution behind me, Constitution Trail. And how many people seem almost taken back by just a subtle salutation of hello, or good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, and how they're just not prepared to respond to someone making such a salutation or such a greeting. And it saddens me because we have become so fixated on things outside of God. It's not God. It's everything else going on that isn't God. And so that's kind of the way to open up the show today. I just wanted to recap how things went over the weekend. As I told many of you on Thursday, that the wedding was coming up. It truly was exhausting and tiring and exciting and exhilarating and all of the above. Now, yours truly had an opportunity because part of what I do is I help out at that very wedding venue. And today I was able to go back and kind of tie up some loose ends, some things that were left, you know, undone after Saturday night, after Saturday evening. So I was able to do that. And some of the flowers were still in need of being put, disposed of. And I found myself becoming very emotional, in my heart. I wasn't prepared for that, but it it truly hit me, and hit me hard because of what we experienced on Saturday, and now where we were on Tuesday. And I was taking those few things and taking them to the dumpster and realizing, this is kind of a new beginning, a farewell. Farewell. The old is gone and the new is here. And it reminds me of scripture, the old and the new. And my daughter is truly setting her sails, as my other daughter has already done, because um, she got married 2 years ago. And now we have the beautiful announcement here a few weeks ago that she is with child, and all of those things. And then having both my daughters, my daughter Cassidy was the matron of honor for her sister. Having both of them there at the wedding was about as cool as it gets. It's about as good as it gets. And so, um, yeah, asking God to be present. That's what we need to do, um, every day, every moment that we can. I understand it's sometimes easier said than done because we get going so fast. And as I've mentioned, slow down to go fast is something I rehearse over and over, not because I believe that I do it. It's because I believe that I need to do it more often and slowing down to go fast, not to miss what God has in store. It's too easy to try to take control of my life and putting God in the rear seat. I need to be in the rear seat. I need to let God take over at the steering wheel. And life is always better when we do that. But as I said, I got a little emotional today, knowing that going forward, uh, you know, this is it for me. It's got to be now grandbabies who grow up, and Lord willing, I'm here. And if I'm not, then I know I'm in a better place, and I know you're in a better place, and I know everyone who holds out that Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior of their lives is going to be in a better place. But we get glimpses and insights to what heaven will be in times like these when you have wonderful, wonderful, godly ceremonies like this particular wedding. So, with that, that's my God is present all the time. As I mentioned, Ryan is not going to be here today. So I've got a few things I want to hit upon, mainly that many of you have seen this video uh, with Joe Biden being led away off stage at a fundraising event by Barack Obama. And now the media is in a feeding frenzy over it. They are absolutely losing their mind, and they're calling it artificially generated artificial intelligence, a fake uh, video. And of course, we know anytime that they start coming out aggressively and proclaiming that, it's because they're trying to do damage control. What else can they do? Uh, they they orchestrated an entire way of existing on this planet and in this country on lies. And as I said, it's not of God. If it were of God, it wouldn't be failing so miserably. We know scripture tells us that everything we need to know is contained in the Bible. Um, we don't have to guess. And we also know that if something is going to manifest itself and be successful here on this earth, uh, then it's usually of God. And if it fails miserably, it's usually not of God. Joe Biden's approval ratings are plummeting. Um, the entire ideology and narrative of the radical left is plummeting. They are losing, altitude as just literally falling out of the sky. Yes, they had momentary success coming out of the 2020 election. They believed they had created a web that would entrap everyone. But as we've come to realize through social media, through different channels and sources of conservative content, of real news, what I call real news versus what President Trump calls fake news, there, all of this, the light has shone upon it. And therefore, we see what is behind the veil. We have our eyes open. We know that what we saw in that video isn't fake. It's not a deep fake. It's not whatever their kind of fake they're calling it. It's real. We have eyes to see. Once again, scripture tells us that if our eyes are open and we're focused on our Lord, if we're focused on living out a life in grace, moving forward in time. And it's not always easy, by no means. I mean, it's scary at times because we want to have control. We want to know what lies beyond today, what lies beyond this moment, and unfortunately, a lot of it we don't control. Man does have choices, there's no question about it, but you have the choice to turn things over to God and bring God into every aspect of your life. I do want to check back in real quick with to see where President Trump is at Racine, Iowa, in his speech, and I'm assuming he's uh, still speaking.
If you take a look at our inflation, our real inflation, they said it was 10 for the last couple of years cumulatively. You take a look at inflation, and if you add different categories, which they don't, I think our inflation is between 40 and 50%. They say it's a 22%. 22% is a lot. That's record setting, but I think you could double it. Let them add the cost
There's
of
the address
interest.
for
Let
the
them add the
Tabernacle
cost of
Church
trying to
on
buy
West
a house.
Covey,
Nobody can buy a house anymore. The
1845 West
American
Covey.
dream is dead. The money they can't get, the interest rates through the roof. During my term, we had gasoline down to $1.87 a gallon. And by the end, the 30-year mortgage rate was 2.7%. Think of that.
Hey,
And now
Bob,
it's 10%,
I need to reach out to you
11%,
and talk to
12%,
you.
and you
Thanks
can't
for
get the
being
money,
here
so it
today,
doesn't
man.
make any difference. They can tell you
TBP, congrats to the
what
bride
the
and
rate is,
groom,
but you
mom
can't
and
get the
dad
money.
too.
Joe Biden inherited the fastest and strongest economic recovery in history. I gave him the greatest economic recovery in history. It's called bounce back. We were all set. We were set. I hated. We had the greatest economy ever in the history of the world. COVID came in, and we did an unbelievable job. And by the time we ended, we gave him the greatest bounce back that anybody's ever had. And guess what? He blew it to shreds. And that's where we are right now. Biden's inflation, price hikes, and energy destruction have cost the average American family an astonishing $28,000. Think of that, $28,000. And on day one of my new administration, we will throw out Bidenomics and replace it with Maganomics. Maganomics. And it was just announced, you probably heard it. This came as I'm walking up. I say, let me say that. I'm walking up here. It was just announced that the budget deficit is now expected to be almost $2 trillion in 2024. Think of it, $2 trillion. Let's see, 2024, that might not be so good because I take over. They're going to say I have a $2 trillion deficit. I say I didn't do anything. But we'll get it down. $400 billion more than estimated just a few months ago because he's throwing money out the window on the Green New scam and other things because this student loan program, which is not even legal. I mean, it's not even legal. And the students aren't buying it, by the way. His polls are down. I'm leading in young people by numbers that nobody's ever seen before.
All right, we'll check back in with him in a minute here. He's pretty consistent on the messaging. He doesn't have to deviate. Joe Biden is, like I said, and it's just not Joe Biden. It's everyone surrounding Joe Biden. They are imploding this world as we know it at an alarming rate. And when I mentioned that Joe in of himself in the whole scuttlebutt about are these videos real, I can't help but bring videos themselves. I mean, it's video evidence that shows, unequivocally that here it is. It's videos such as this that show us that I don't know. You tell me. You have eyes to see. You tell me. What does this look like? I know there's no sound. I think there's a little sound, but let's look at the lady step over as Joe Biden has walked away from the group. His attention was on one thing, and obviously, you know, magically, Joe's able to put his glasses on. And here, I'll rewind it for you. I mean, we have eyes to see. It's pretty straightforward on what we're viewing there. In fact, I'll even blow it up a little bit so you can see it at a she moves over, she gets it, she sees it, she says, "Whoa, what's going on here?" The Joe Biden is off the reservation here. Let Like I said, you watch it. We all can see it in real time. No, this isn't artificial intelligence creating this video. These people, this is an actual event. He's there. He kind of meanders away from the crowd. In fact, everybody's kind of going, what's he doing?" Now she is his handler, comes over to encourage him to refocus, to turn around. That's the same look that we've seen. Now he's going to put his sunglasses on so he can make sure that he gets a closer view. And there you go, as it replays itself over and over again. These things are happening at such an alarming rate that we wonder what is in store coming up on June 27th, which is the first presidential debate. How they're going to accomplish that and what it's going to take to get Joe Biden prepared. I know that today he's at Camp David. In fact, most of his days he's at Camp David or somewhere other than in the White House because his schedule is really very limited. He attends very few events. He has very few phone conversations. He has very few responsibilities in the course of the day. He does get a daily debriefing, but that's not always in person. So we know, especially coming with this other video, which I hopeful to be able to pull up, is that Joe Biden is currently just a matter of I don't even know it's what he's a matter of. It's he's not obviously totally operating at a level that's presidential. And it's unfortunate because there's so much going on in the world right now, and we need leadership coming from Washington D.C. The chaos we have, we need leadership that is, as the show is titled, that it keeps God present. You know what's kind of cool, whether you agree with it or not. I believe that President Trump is focused on one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I don't always think that Joe Biden is. In fact, I know he's not. I wanted to get back to that video that shows Barack Obama leaving Joe Biden off of the stage. If I can pull it up, I'm going through the Trump videos, and I don't know if I can find the RNC video where they have him, but here's another case in point.
Patience and goodwill of the American people is being tested by the fears at the border. They don't understand a lot.
And I'll replay this one for
The
you.
border and provide legal pathways to citizens. We have to acknowledge that the patience and goodwill of the American people is being tested by the fears at the border. They don't understand a lot. We can both secure the border and provide legal pathways to citizens. We have to acknowledge that the patience and goodwill of the American people is being tested by the fears at the border. They don't understand a lot. We can both secure the border
And it goes on and on and on, and it's just constant. And that wasn't necessarily the video that I wanted. I need to figure out where it went. I think it's in this feed of RNC research. Go out to Twitter. This is once again part of utilizing truly what is out for us on mainstream media right now. It's mind boggling. Here's the one that I wanted
Thanks to all
to
the
show
members
you.
of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure you're going to do so.
I mean, what
Thanks
is
to all
it?
the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure.
I mean, you tell me.
Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary.
He doesn't know how
Thanks
he's
to all the members of Congress and
introduce
Homeland
everybody.
Security Secretary. I'm not sure you're going to do so. Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary.
It's really sad, as many people have mentioned. I'm one of those people. But that's why it's so important to keep things real, keep things focused. This is what we're up against. As I said, June 27th. This is the person that will be on stage right there. Joe Biden against President Donald J. Trump. And, you know, how is that going to work itself out? Well, we'll have to all wait until June 27th. But Joe Biden is preparing for that evening. I'm assuming that it's not going to be canceled. But as we know, and you can go out there and please like and share as many times as you see these videos, push them out, because the mainstream media, the legacy media, the bought and paid for arm of the Democrat Party in the media is truly trying to shed or shroud what is going on. They're trying to give us their own version of fake news. They say that it's been fact checked, and we know how fact checks work. Fact checks means that we should probably double down on sharing it. But not only that, we know that it's hit a nerve, and therefore they're doing damage control, which is what they're doing with the Obama video at the fundraiser, where Obama has to lead him, because as he was in that demonstration of a paratrooper, Joe was locked and fixated on something in the crowd, and the applause was going, and it was time for Joe to exit the stage. Well, Barack, obviously being someone who's very savvy politically, and in so many other ways, but mostly politically, he knows how to read the audience. He knows how to read what's going on stage, and he looks over out of his peripheral vision and sees Joe Biden standing there, not exiting the stage. So he literally reaches over, grabs his wrist, and pulls him to off stage with his hand on his back as he's patting him. How's he going to survive on stage with a moderator? Yes, he's going to get the questions ahead of time. I'm assuming that's part of his team's willingness to debate Trump. He's going to get the questions, so therefore he's going to have prepared answers, canned answers. It's not going to take a lot. Yes, the moderator is going to be there trying to knock Trump off of his mark, which you know how well that has worked over time. It doesn't. But it's going to be interesting. That is June 27th. Definitely, you don't want to miss it. But at the same time, getting back to asking God to be present, and I do feel, and if you're feeling it with me, I am feeling it. I am still trying to do recovery, as I said at the beginning of the show. This was one of the biggest weekends I have had in a very, very long time, at least a couple of years. But many other things have transpired. But having your daughter get married or wed, it's big. It is big, and it truly takes a part of you, and in a way, and and that's what it's meant to do, right? It's biblical. It's said that that a husband and wife will come together, and they will leave, they will cleave and leave their parents, and that's what I believe. If I wasn't feeling a little lost today, a little emotional, after going through a weekend like that, then I'd have to do a checkup from the old saying, a checkup from the neck up, or at least a checkup from the heart up, because it does impact you. And uh, I'll repeat it again. I know it sounds redundant, but as my wife says, my beautiful wife sitting across from me, she said, I'm retired officially now. Unofficially, she's retired. She's officially retired back in May 25th. But here, June 17th, she is unofficially retired because we've gotten past a couple big uh, events. And those things, they put life on hold for a minute, but they're rewarding to a sense that the accomplishment that you feel from being part of that is magnificent. But also they can be very draining, very tiring. So as she says, she's retired, and I say that I'm just tired. So I don't plan on retiring, especially with the DPB show in full. What's the word? See, I can't even get my words right today. We're on full throttle. Even when I don't feel like full throttle, I'm in full throttle. We can't let up. As I said, we can't take our foot off the accelerator. We have to be active. One thing, just to talk about it, I definitely want to make sure that you guys are aware of this. It's, as I shared with you, it is not $24. You can make a donation. I need to grab the uh, QR code where you can go to the McLean County Republican website. In fact, I probably should do that rather than put up this official Trump, because we're not asking for $24 as a donation. We're asking for $10. $10 for a yard sign. Getting Trump blanketed across the United States, from the West Coast to the East Coast, right here in Central Illinois. We want to impact McLean County. We want to just paint the county Trump, because it's important that people know that November 6th is a day of reckoning. We're going to get this country back. We're going to make America great again. We are going to start turning back the tide, taking back the territory in our educational systems, parental rights, energy independence, the economy. Our borders going to be secured worldwide. We are going to stop agitating and instigating wars that require that we send our young men and women into conflict, into battles. It's funny because usually the left, the progressives, the Democrats, they were always believed to be the party of peace. I don't see peace in the party of the Democrat Party, the modern Democrat Party. In fact, I've always believed that they were the party of unrest, of division, of you name it, constantly moving the needle for what? Government control, right? Power. Ultimately, government knows the best for your life. But get a Trump sign. You can do that here. I'll see if I can pull it up. And as I'm kind of chatting and talking at the same time, I'll see if I can get the McLean County Republican site up. If I can type, like I said, everything seems to be a little challenging today. And awkward pause, but you know what? When you're doing podcasts, you can do that. And on the radio, you can do that if you're Dan Bongino. Sometimes I have to, I don't know about you, I've got to check to see if he's still on the air, because it's like, wow, did I lose Dan? Let's see if I can find it in here in the mix of all the things that Trump yard signs right there. So go to McLean County Republican Party or McLean County Republicans. Let's see if I remove this one, stop screen, add, share screen. Look at that. I knew I could do it. And now I'll share it with you guys. if you go out to McLean County Republican Party and look at that, beautiful. I'll have to get it into focus. Of course, it's not. Let me pull it down a little bit. There we go. Trump yard signs. There it is. Yard signs, $10 donation, and they will be delivered to you. I'll show you where it says that right there. It says delivered to your door. Early voting starts September 26th. Make your voice heard. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's a place that you can fill in your name. The payment on it is through a QR code. And I think that that's in when you go in to make your donation. There is a QR code. I'll have to get that QR code and post it out there. But as I said, the Trump 2024 Make America Great Again signs are out there. It is my goal to get about 3,000 signs in place here in Central Illinois. I would appreciate your help in doing that. It's a big task, but it's something that I believe that we can all do. Are Biden's border policies working? Do you think he's doing this for votes? Yes, Jordan, I agree. It's good to see you. Thanks, Jordan, for being here. Congratulations, he says to Hannah, and good afternoon, Dave. Thank you, Jordan, for jumping on. Yes, that's what we talked about earlier in the show, is that Trump was saying it at Racine, Iowa today, that there's only one reason, demographic destiny. And as they tell you, it's replacement of the voters they're losing. They knew that people weren't buying into it. So this is part of the reason why there's the giveaways, the handouts, the freebies, the student loan relief, you name it. Giving people free stuff is their strategy of gaining the electoral vote and ultimately gaining control of the government, is by handouts, giveaways. You know, at some point, especially in a free society like ours, people don't, that doesn't resonate very well, and they sure don't put up with it very long, and they push back. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people push back, as they should. Nobody wants to be, in a country where everything about your life is dictated, from the amount of food you can consume, the type of food you can consume, where you can travel to, what your children can learn. The fact that your streets won't be safe, that certain people are able to carry guns, usually illegally, where you're not allowed to carry a gun, constitutional carry a gun. The Second Amendment is in place for a reason, and it should not be infringed upon. That's what the Second Amendment says, shall not be infringed. I love it when they use the example of, well, it wasn't meant for you to have a cannon. No, it was meant. If you want a cannon, you can have a cannon. There are people with cannons, and I know that Joe Biden says, well, you're coming up, you need an F-15. Well, I guess if a person could afford an F-15, Elon Musk can afford a spacecraft, SpaceX, that leaves this world as we know it, the Earth, and climbs into space. Nobody's holding him back. He also has proven that we are a free market economy, and that when a free market economy is functioning, that's when the masses, the multitudes of people, do better. Right now, as Trump was pointing out in Racine, Iowa, most people can't even afford the gas. They can't afford the groceries, and they sure can't afford just to have basic shelter. Rental properties have gone beyond the ability of the normal working wage. And many of you would say, well, then we need to raise the working wage. Well, unfortunately, most companies can't withstand raising the minimum wage to $25 an hour, which is what they want to do. It's part of the whole replacement theory and demographic destiny. They want to take money away from the haves and give it to the have-nots. Unfortunately, that's the Robin Hood theory has never worked. The people who have do contribute at an amazing rate to the tax structure. Now, are there opportunities to do better? Of course there are. Are there ways of bringing up the tide? Of course there are. Is the weakest link need to be cared for? Of course it does. Is mental illness on a rise? Of course it is, because we're over medicating people. It's the way that we treat people in society. As I mentioned earlier, it's walking down the Constitution Trail and just giving some type of kind greeting, a pleasant greeting to someone, and watching how they're just taken back that someone talked to them. It's mind-boggling to me, and it's so commonsensical where the brokenness is. Corruption, the fact that we're morally and fiscally, financially bankrupt. It's because we don't ask God to be present. And it's only when we truly turn everything over, as I said, this wedding this weekend, I knew once we invited God to be the theme, to be the center, that everything else would fall into place. And it sure did. Interesting little point about Hannah's wedding. The bartender, the person providing the adult libations, came up to me at 9:30 and he said, "Hey, I just heard the DJ call for a last call." He goes, "Is that what you want?" And he said, "Because I'm willing to stay on." He goes, "This has been such an amazing wedding, and the guests have been so polite and kind and welcoming." And I said, "Well, it appears that it's kind of winding down." And, I heard a lot of people were going back to gather in smaller groups, like the groomsmen on this property where the wedding was at. There's an Airbnb, and they kind of already started drifting away from the central main event area, with the wedding ceremony area, the reception area. And he said, I've never seen anything like this out here, as someone who has been out providing liquor, adult beverages for weddings. He said, this has been one of the most amazing, well mannered gatherings for a wedding that I've ever seen. And I can only attribute that to one thing and one thing only, and that's God. God was present. We've got to include God in all of it. Anytime we gravitate from it, and that's including this country, the Constitution's very forthright. In God we trust. Our currency says it. One nation under God. We were endowed by our Creator that all men, women were created equally. And we were given rights, not by Joe Biden and his regime or the leftist way of looking at things. We are endowed by our Creator with our rights. Our rights come from God, not from government. And ultimately, that is where this push is. All right, one last time, I want to throw it back on stage real quick. There it is. Trump signs are now available. And yes, we will deliver them to your home if you're in the McLean County area. If you're in a county outside of McLean, still reach out to us. We can make arrangements for you to receive signs. The 4x4 signs, we ask a $75 donation. The 48 by 96 signs, $100 donation. Now, it's really cool because we have grommets, and those signs, the larger signs, need grommets. I learned that through my campaigns, that it gives a way, especially with central Illinois. There's a reason that we have wind turbines here. Uh, and it's because we constantly have a prevailing wind, and it would wreak havoc on those signs. The yard signs, not so much, but, make a donation. $10 for a yard sign, uh, make a $50 donation. Get 5 of them, share them with a friend, ask them if they're registered to vote, ask them if they're planning on voting, ask them what it is that concerns them most about the current climate that we're in here, uh, not only locally, on a statewide basis, and across this country and in the world. What we're used to seeing has left us. And the only reason it has left us is because we have failed to put God first in everything that we do and say. And when we put God first, America will be great again. Oh, hold on. I got to put that up. See, as I said, it was good to have my wife. Now that I've gotten over this obstacle of having her, like a hurdle sitting across from me, I think I'll be able to do it more often. I'm not accustomed to having anybody in studio with me. And, on the radio, yes, because I used to have guests that would come in, but there was the interruptions to the programming. Interruptions, I call them. They were paid sponsorships, but it was a way of resetting, reloading, and constantly moving around. This is unique in of itself because you are live from 4 to 5, Tuesday and Thursday, and we do the best we can. And as I said, having her here for the first time in studio with me has helped me. The next time she's here, I probably will be able to keep pace. Plus, Ryan's going to be back, and I always like it when Ryan's here because he he gives me an opportunity for my mind to reset, and it needs to reset, especially in times like this, because so many things are out there, so many things I'd like to share with you. But most of all, as I said, there's a reason for the show being entitled Asking God to Be Present. If it doesn't happen, then we're in it on our own. And we know how miserable we fail when God isn't taking the lead. So I encourage you, go forth, let God lead the way. I appreciate you always being here. We'll be back on Thursday. And as I always share with you, I love you, and I appreciate everyone who's a part of the DPB show. I love you, but always remember that Jesus loves you beyond anything we can even imagine. Until Thursday, I bid you guys farewell. Once again, anytime you want to connect with me, just message me on social media. Those chats come through to me and messaging comes through to me. So I look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Farewell.